talk a little bit in between. So.
Oh, yo, what's up? Okay, this looks legit. I'm having this on my laptop. This is cool. Hey, everybody. Do I ask?
Do you ask what?
Can you hear me?
That is a good, good thought. Everyone should be okay. Everyone's saying they hear us. All right, perfect.
Nice.
Looks
Nice.
good and sound great. So I just want to inform everybody that Adam Antor had access to this all of last year.
Okay.
And
we
still
don't- wow.
recorded it on a laptop microphone in his office in a green room. All right. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Here I
You're
am.
finally using the spaces that we offer to you.
You know,
And
I'm excited. This is way more legit. This is the Ferris State Esports production studio we're live from. And this might be the first time most of you are seeing it. So, yeah.
why haven't you been watching the Fair streams? We show it all the time on the Fair stream at twitch.tv/Ferris
That's
Esports.
true.
I had to get at least one plug in.
Right.
All right.
That's true. That's true. That's fair. Yeah, so you know who I am, but I'll allow my co-host here to give the intro on himself.
Okay, I'm freaking out now that they're saying the audio doesn't line up. So don't
maybe
do that
that's
to
the
me.
connection to Iowa, because I know that this is co-college's director. Maybe it's the-
Okay. I'm freaking
It's
out.
fine from someone else.
I'm
Oh,
freaking
it
out a
does.
lot.
Oh no! Oh no! It sounds fine to me.
Okay.
Does this mean I'm going all in on content creation? I don't know. I'm going as far in as Mans and FlashRewinds are willing to go.
So okay. So Elo's telling me good. He's one of the other producers here, so I appreciate it. He's not here, but he's back home. But so I am Coach Mans. I'm currently the co-interim director, which is a fancy word for I do a lot of stuff here and don't get paid for it. Fair State Esports. After John left, we haven't hired anybody back, and I worked with John a lot to help the program essentially. Since I got here, I was a transfer student. Before that, I was working in Europe, coaching League of Legends teams for about 10 years. So.
Yeah.
I'm a lot older than I look.
and the guy who doesn't have a microphone and is not on the video, we've got FlashRewinds, which is one of our students who is producing this whole thing. Shout out to him.
You could try and take control of the camera really fast and see if you could tilt it and then go back. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. There he is. Turn
Oh,
away. There you go. Hey,
hey.
Flash.
Hey.
All right.
Well, okay. That's not very nice to me. Someone's asking who gave you my password back. It's a fair question. I haven't been on. I mean, I just got a notification that Twitch is raising the subscription pricing, and that might have been like months ago. And it just.
I'm
I'm
pretty sure
just
it's been
getting
$5.99 for a
notification now.
while.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, audio doesn't line up for you. Try refreshing. That usually helps.
No cowboy hat. I actually don't own a cowboy hat.
That was just a prop.
It was just a prop. Yeah. Yeah, it was just a prop. I don't know. I need to buy one, though. Yeah.
Next time you're in Texas, you hear that, Texas people? Next time he's down there, make sure you get him one.
Yeah, when will be the next time? I don't know. Probably DreamHack Dallas next year. Now we need Indiana.
So Indiana Jones, but Antor. And that took me a minute to get that. Yeah, see, I got it. I'm like, why would he go to Indiana? That sounds so weird.
What's the discussion topic list? Ha! You already know. You already know.
So we have a lot.
We do have a lot. We only have an hour to talk about, but I think a lot of it's going to be about Nay Star League /
Play-Fi.
the new things that are going to be those. What else? We've got some other stuff planned, but that's going to be the bulk of the discussion and the information. You like the listing I had before? We do want to incorporate that again. We want to have like a ticker. It just didn't make it into our first show.
Yeah, we did this all yesterday. So I'm not saying that as an excuse, but also our bad, I guess. We didn't get the After Effects and everything, the Photoshop file.
This is pretty good for less than 24 hours of throwing some stuff together.
Less than 12.
I
It was a work day yesterday. That was it.
We've been talking about this for months.
Yes.
We just didn't do anything.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't do anything, period. I just
I'm
showed
very
up.
busy.
So.
All right. Look, we're doing all of our stream stuff and doing all the graphics, the new plan for next year. On top of, I was literally at orientation earlier today for all the new students, and I do that 4 times a week at this point for 3 or 4 hours. So we're busy over the summer, so.
That's fair. Shout out to CZ TV for the follow. Shout out to our producer, FlashRewinds, for finally following me. And
that's tough.
WBB Chris Postel for the follow. I'm ashamed you've been a 2-time guest on the show and you still haven't followed me. But I'm glad you finally did.
I think they probably just unfollowed you because of the lack of shows, to be honest. And that's something
Faust
that I would
Lord,
do.
Thank you. Maybe that's what this is, because these are people that have been watching my show since the beginning.
Okay.
So y'all are weird, I guess. I don't know.
Just don't unfollow. Come on, man.
And I got a subscriber. Whoa. It says I have a subscriber, but I haven't gotten that notification yet. So thank you to whoever that is. That's pretty dope. First time chat, easy SU. First time? Seriously? Who are these people? These are people that I know.
That's tough.
All right. Well, cool. Should we dive into this first discussion, this topic?
This is a tough one. All right, go for it if you want. I know less than you do. There's one of the things I really want to talk about, which is the student side of this, which is obviously extremely impactful for me. But if you want to go ahead and introduce it and kind of talk about it a little bit, I'll add some stuff in.
I like Palmer's message here. Back to announce Bantor has been bought by Playfly. That'd be pretty cool, actually. I mean, if anyone wants to buy Bantor with Antor, even like just through a sponsorship deal, like I'll cater my content. I'll sell out. I ain't about that. I'm not above that. But I'm not sponsored by anyone right now, so we can be spicy. So this topic we're talking about is NACE Star League. That is no more. We just saw an announcement last week from Playfly First announcing that they're going to create a league and name it the Playfly College Esports, I think is just the title of it. And then NACE came out with a response, or I guess their own announcement, saying that they're going to be focusing on NACE competition, running it themselves. And that was like the big news of last week. And there's a lot that's going on behind this, that has been going on behind this. And I think it's a bigger deal than just obviously that one sentence that I gave. Now, through my role on the Competition Council of NACE, I'm privy to more information than the general public. Because lawyers have been involved in this for a very long time, I'm going to refrain from sharing anything that's not public to the best of my ability, outside of maybe like just general thoughts on or general sentiment from NACE membership and NACE leadership. But overall, we're going to try to not get sued on the first show back. How about that?
I would appreciate that.
Yeah. This is a show by and created by Adam Antor, no one else. Opinions are of my own. Thank you.
Including my opinions, which we're going to get real spicy now.
We'll see what your opinions are. Yeah. I'm trying to catch up on chat. My show has always been a place where chat is super involved and can throw in their opinions. And we'll discuss them potentially, and that's going to continue to be the case as we have chat on a screen over here, and I have chat on my screen because I like watching the show because it looks super, super sick. I'm going to walk through some of these notes here. I talked about, all right, so they're splitting, they're launching their own things. I think first initial thought on my end from Playfly's announcement is they are literally just taking NACE Star League, renaming it, and doing it themselves. And there's almost no innovation to it or difference. And that, it just feels weird. Part of that is they're keeping the varsity moniker as one of their divisions, which is weird to me because, NACE membership they've used this varsity moniker when they describe certain institutions and resources being allocated, etc. It's just weird to me. Playfly will be creating a advisory board to help drive the direction. So they're basically creating their own competition council. But I believe they get to select who's on it. So that's very different than what NACE is. And it will also include students in addition to esports directors. I'm not surprised by that because Playfly has always pushed for a numbers thing. Like they sell sponsorships, and what sells sponsorships is numbers. So they want all the schools and all the students participating. And a lot of times that's bigger schools with just clubs. They want those clubs to feel represented. So they are allowing students to be on that. We'll see how it goes. What are your thoughts on that specific part of it?
So I have a lot of thoughts as far as like the student leadership is concerned. As a student at a university in a leadership position here for the program, I represent Ferris in several different committees, as well as my co-director. And one of the biggest issues that I've had is that I'm a student and people who are employees of the university treat us different. I'll say different and not worse because it's I've been asked where my boss is in several of my meetings, and yeah, that's tough because they want people who I understand they want people who are paid by the institution to represent them in those meetings, and that students leave every 4 years, they transfer, whatever. But I've also been at Ferris for like almost 4 years now, so it's longer than most directors have been at their positions. So I think that I can represent the university very well, considering my esports experience on top of my collegiate experience. So it's tough going to those meetings and being like, hey, so we need to talk to someone who can make decisions. And I'm like, well, that's me. They're like, what about your boss? Like, he comes to me for those decisions. What do you mean? Like, that's weird. He's gonna give you the exact same answer. So it's tough on the student point of view. And we've always, made an attempt to reach out to student leaders at other different universities. I know we talked to Caden at U of M probably about a year ago, 2 years ago, before Palmer got there, when we were working on bandwidth bowl stuff. So it was one of those, like, we always tried to reach out, but not everyone's our program, right? So I don't know how many other directors will take student point of views as much as another director, which is, I think, my biggest concern with this.
That's fair. Where's this question? It's someone says it sounds like a return to CSL is all. I push back on that because it's basically just it's a rerun of NACE without NACE, like NACE's purview.
Or leadership as far as like directors are concerned, because
right,
they're picking their own people they want on consoles and stuff.
Yeah. And I'll say this, like everyone I've worked with at Playfly, they're all awesome. I really enjoyed them. I think what the frustrating parts of things have been dealing with, like, the behemoth that is Playfly, the company, and their goals. But the people who work at Playfly and are on the boots on the ground, if you will, are awesome. I think they're great people. The next part of this, they're going to have two membership types. They're calling it varsity and open. Varsity membership is going to be $2,000 a year. If you sign up for 2 years, it's only $3,000, and your payments aren't due until next July, which I think is a really smart, way of thinking on their part, because they know budgets are already set for next year. So, you might to not have to pay until next July, might have to do the 2 year. I'm not sure if the 1 year is not due until then or not.
To fully delay a payment and then go, oh, we are competed, so
yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. Applications are going live today, supposedly. Along with that, today there's going to be a blog post from Playfly. They reached out to me to send me some information. They're going to be dropping a blog post during the show, I believe, is what they told me about their competitive structure. And then what they're going to be doing also is hosting a town hall session tomorrow to answer questions. I think that was posted. You have to RSVP for that. Yeah. But that'll be happening to answer everybody's questions. A couple other things they're going to be doing. Oh, the open division is going to be $40 per player per season, which caters to clubs. I think.
I have a really interesting point on that. Can it be mixed university rosters then, if the students are paying?
My guess is not.
Because I have a lot of friends at different schools that I would love to play games with, but we can't as far as like universities. So like, why wouldn't these students who are full-time students at different universities be able to play on a team together if they're each paying, right? Then you just get rid of the schools entirely, though.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. Like, I understand it's weird, but it'd be cool, right?
Could be cool.
Because I mean, there's a couple of our players that either transferred or graduated and going to grad school somewhere else that I would love to play with again. and they're full-time students. So like, if this would allow us to do that, that'd be super cool. But I would understand not. That was just my like crazy out of like field idea.
Yeah.
Someone wants to make a bunch of money. Just make a collegiate league where all you have to be is students, not necessarily at the same university. So.
Yeah, and that's the standard. That $40 per student's the standard fee, and then to get premium, which is access to the top competition, it's $75 per player per season. That seems kind of steep for a college kid.
Yeah.
I'm not top tier player, but like if I'm a kid in a club at some university, I ain't paying $75 per semester to some company. If my team's not good, maybe if my team's good,
sure. Then it has to be like, what are the rewards? Like, what are the chances that we win everything and get something back? There's always that like kind of business decision of like, is this an investment into possibly having a chance to win this?
Yeah.
Or if it's like some of my 5 Ferris League players where we're averaging like gold, like there's no shot we're beating anybody good, right? So there's gonna be no money.
Yep.
So.
And talking about like the benefits, they're touting $150,000 plus in scholarships between highest varsity and open division and circuit competitions. I'm putting this out there right now that there's a reason they didn't split this by game title. And I think it's because historically the publishers have funded some of those circuit titles. So like iRacing and chess, I believe, are funded by the publishers. So now Playfly is just saying, hey, we're going to give out $150,000, but maybe $100,000 is coming for those 2 game titles. Okay. So this one I saw right through. I'm like, oh, that's absolute garbage. From my understanding, Playfly has been wanting to lower costs, lower scholarships being given out per season, and they even didn't want to do they want to do less in-person stuff prior to this split. So like, I feel like I'm missing part of the story here, but it also could be their last-ditch effort to like, hey, maybe this is valuable if we do it on our own. I don't know. So. That is something to be considered to consider there. They're going to be doing weekly broadcasts, which they've done. I wonder who they will tap for that. I know Boise's done that previously for NACE Star League. I don't know if that'll be the same.
We're available, just saying.
Yeah, Ferris. We have students. We have this awesome studio. We have a caster booth and all that. If anybody is interested in finding some third-party broadcasters. Yeah, sure. They also announced they're going to do an annual LAN each spring. So they're going to do 1 LAN each spring, which is interesting. They're going to do 1 per year, which I don't even know what's public and what's not, but that seems like that's going to be replicated elsewhere instead of 2 in person. DJ Dextro says, keep in mind, iRacing and chess are not varsity. Prizing are separate for those games. Okay. All right, so they're saying that iRacing and chess aren't in that $150,000. Okay, well then,
I want to be the devil's advocate. Where's that money coming from then? Because that's a lot of money.
An investment from the company, I'm sure. Or I mean, they do have some sponsors.
That's still a lot of money.
Palmer says, what's the money line that Playfly hires all these staff and promises all this prizing and then doesn't pay and gets exposed on Twitter? My guess is it's pretty low that they wouldn't pay. Because it's such a larger company than just esports. What they would do more likely is just shut down competition after a season or after 2 seasons is much more likely. In my opinion. What else? Oh, they're also giving a free t-shirt for every participant and a free drop. This is like a free giveaway, and this falls is a flag, but every participant has to pay for the shipping and handling. So it's not
free.
It's not free.
But
you got to pay it's probably $4.95
depending on where you are.
Yeah, they could also cut streaming. Yeah, they could cut costs mid-season on some of that stuff. But yeah, so it'll be free $99. Yeah, so that's fun. They said they were going to do travel stipends with their annual LAN. I think a lot of people got really excited about that. I'm not so much because it doesn't say how much. Because I believe NACE, when they did NACE Star League, would give X amount per player, but that did not cover the cost. So you're not getting a free travel stipend. You more than likely it's going to be a set amount per player. That probably won't be enough to get there.
To actually cover all the expenses.
Yes,
yeah.
It's expensive to go to LANs, okay?
Especially with, 5 kids minimum.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So.
BK Stackia says, love when they say that 1K for 8K worth of travel. Yeah, exactly. CCC did a nice stipend. I think it was like $1,000. Wasn't much, but it was something. Yeah. Their new website says coming soon on all competition pages, so you don't get any fun. There's like, here's our announcement and our brand new website, and you go to the website and you go to competition, it's like coming soon, and you're like, why am I even here? So that's interesting. I think the other really interesting thing I found on their website that I see as a potential, I guess, additional revenue that they're trying to find, but maybe a bigger opportunity that they're trying to take advantage of is that you can actually go on there and make like a team store for your school and then sell merchandise.
Who gets that money though?
Well, I don't know. My assumption is to get people to sign up. Maybe they give like a percentage back to the club, but maybe not even that. I think what's interesting. All right, so this leads to a bigger discussion, and Dylan and Chatter, you connect alluded to this a little bit. But what is Playfly, the company? So I was talking to Mans about this, and Mans seemed like it was something that not everyone might know and maybe would be valuable. I think I have a YouTube video out there from a couple years ago where I explained some of this at that point. But Playfly is a collegiate licensing company. So what they do is they go to athletic departments and they say, hey, I will pay you X amount of money in order to basically own the athletic logo for the length of this contract. And then basically if anyone wants to produce a shirt or anything related to that athletic logo, they would have to pay Playfly. And there's much more to those contracts, etc. But Playfly is one of the largest collegiate licensing companies in the country. The other one being Learfield, which, if you remember, Level Next was their esports attempt. They were doing a bunch of Madden tournaments. And then another one is CSMG, which they run and they own and run CECC. So what we have in the collegiate landscape right now is like 3 collegiate licensing companies trying to make their way into collegiate esports for a variety of different reasons, and some of them more malicious than others. But that's what Playfly does. So Playfly actually owns the rights to a bunch of the schools' athletic logos that have esports teams, and there could be some angle here with that shop to do something along those lines. So I think it's interesting. Like I looked at Playfly's current collegiate partnerships, and Michigan State is one of them right off the top of my head. So Michigan State's athletic department is in a contract with Playfly, and Playfly owns the rights to those athletic logos. So interesting tidbit there. It's something to keep in mind. And I think I said that a couple years ago. It's like, hey, watch out for this. Watch it. See how it happens and how it grows. So really interesting. I don't know. It was really interesting to see that you could make team stores on this website. I don't know. It just feels weird to me.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't know. And yeah, the fact that they own some of the athletic logos makes it weird. I don't know. It's very odd.
So, sort of free shout out. Esports Gear does all of our stuff. And I know most of the esports jerseys are on Esports Gear as well. Yep. And we actually get some money back from them. So,
yeah.
If Playfly is going to give us money back, then why are we going to give them the licensing stuff for it? So
that's fair. I'm assuming they're doing more than jerseys. But it also is like, hey, you compete here. All your players come on this website. Like, just make it easy. My guess is that there would be some type of kickback, but in some cases it's just a student club. So like, who are you kicking the money back? So maybe it's just like, let's not do a kickback. We'll just make it a little cheaper. I don't really know.
All RSOs usually have a bank account for dues and everything else. So there is a place for that money to go. Yeah, it just depends on whether you trust your treasurer enough to actually.
Knowing how much of a headache it was at NACE for NASTAR League just to give prize pools to certain schools, like I imagine this would be such a headache too. But it's possible. I mentioned that they're going to be dropping a post during the show. I wonder if that's even up, if that's already up. Let me look really fast. They're also, like I said, going to be doing a town hall tomorrow, answering questions. They have not dropped the blog post yet, or at least on Twitter. Now, from the other side, we're going to look at NACE. They were supposed to release schedules on the 10th, and I didn't even pull it yet. Let me look at this side here. Oh, they did. Beautiful. Let me pull this. Well, while I'm pulling this up, the NACE convention's actually this week in Orlando, hosted by Full Sail. Sari's in chat. Shout out to her and her team, always putting on a great show. I'm sure there's going to be, I think there's 5 or 6 pieces of legislation that'll be voted on by NACE members. The NACE Awards will be happening. It's always a good time. I sadly will not be there. I will be at Evo in Vegas, working with a publisher as their photographer. But everyone else is going to have a grand time.
Did you say it was this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay.
This coming week.
Yes, I will be busy because it's my birthday this weekend.
Ooh, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the schedule. Okay, so here's the difficult part about being on CC is I don't know what's public and what's not. So I have to find out what's public. Okay, here's public. All right, so NACE, what they're going to be doing is pulling back substantially on the titles that they're sponsoring. So NACE is basically going to be bringing it internal again. NACE staff will be running competition for NACE. It'll be most likely only NACE members. And what it looks like, it's going to be Rocket League, Overwatch, League of Legends, Call of Duty, Valorant, and Super Smash. And they're discontinuing competition in CS2, Rainbow Six, Siege, Hearthstone, and Fortnite. Which
the Fortnite one is tough for us.
Yeah.
Considering we just won it.
We just won national championship.
So we are the last NACE national champions for Fortnite. We have first and second. So
yeah. Grand finals. They're only going to be doing a spring grand finals. LAN.
Okay.
Just like Playfly. Although
I'm seeing some
commonalities
here.
Yeah, I don't know who came up with that first. I will say that NACE has been talking about this possibility for longer than like a week. But they're going to be expanding to the top 8 teams for each title instead of the top 2 or 4. Which is a positive for everybody. Everybody wants more LAN opportunities, and that's what they're going to be doing, utilizing the GSL format. Fall grand finals will be played online to facilitate this expansion effectively. They just hired a new competition manager. Shout out to them. Whose name is escaping me.
I think they said
Matthew
in chat,
Lenz.
Hippograph. NACE also hired my boy Hippograph to run it.
Nice.
So thanks, Chad, for helping us out.
Lenz.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think I've met Matt, but yeah, exciting for him and for NACE. What else? Everything else kind of basically looks the same. They're doing Varsity Premier, Varsity Plus, and they're going to do it fall and then a spring. It's just a lot less titles.
I mean, so like one point I kind of want to add to that: the more competitions, the better. Like more competitions competing with each other. NACE, Playfi, NECC, all of them competing against each other is a good thing for the students. My personal opinion, because the more options you have that fits them, right?
Yeah.
So like NECC, you could play remote, and that helped a lot of students. For NACE, it was us play in person, but also there's like a flat fee for us, right? So some of our teams want to play in some titles in this one and other titles in this one, and because we had that opportunity, I appreciate it as someone who's like in charge of it, especially with the game titles being on different days, because Overwatch was on one day, and we're like, well, we have 6 Overwatch teams and 30 PCs, so you kind of do the math there. We can't have any other games playing at that time, so then we would just put them in a different league. So that was nice for us, but I'm interested to see where the industry kind of shifts, like which one becomes the premier tournament, right? Because there's always one that's like better than the rest, but there's a lot of people who are like trying to catch up kind of things.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out.
equally interested to see how it shakes out because I think NACE Star League could have easily been top 2, top 3 in terms of the place to compete. And I don't know if that's going to be the case this coming year. And part of that is because NACE's competition won't have non-members. And there's some really strong teams and clubs that are not members of NACE. But then, like, I believe NACE brought a ton of legitimacy to Playfly and their competition. Like, without NACE members, NACE Star League would not be the same.
Yeah.
And now we're splitting those two up. And I think your point of there being more competition is better is not what a lot of the vocal people in the space would say. I think a lot of vocal people in the space would say that more competition just clouds the landscape and makes it confusing.
Sure.
But I think you bring up a really good point, especially when we look at like more club-oriented competition.
Yeah, I mean, there's one's gonna be the best, right? The best, where all the best schools playing it, and then eventually everyone will kind of transition to that for like national titles and stuff. I think it was weird when you had NECC like national champion, and then we had like a NACE national champion, and then just like that feels weird, right? Yeah. Which leads into another topic later that we'll talk about.
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting is that we're also in a timeline of collegiate esports where the developer leagues are quickly becoming the not premium competition, if they're even still in existence.
I want to rant about CeeLo for a second. We had 6 weeks of CeeLo. We played one game.
Dang.
Out of 6 weeks. We got League Unlocked, so that was kind of cool, but we also have like Riot Campus or whatever it is to get League Unlocked for all of our PCs. But like playing one game out of 6 weeks, kind of unacceptable.
Yeah.
So, and it's just people signing up and then not showing up to games. But yeah, no, I didn't mean to derail. That was like my one rant was like, that's the most frustrating thing is like everyone gets there ready to play and like, oh, we can't play.
Yeah.
And it was on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Chris Postel put in chat, Data, you have 24 plus current conferences and leagues today. That's true, but a lot of those conferences, I'm assuming that 24 number, are conferences that are not open to every school. So like the Peach Belt Conference is a small conference. I think it was probably up to 15 schools competing esports-wise in the Peach Belt when I left Florida Southern. But you have to like apply to be in that league, and then the traditional athletic directors have to approve you to be in that league. So like that's not like everyone can be in this, and there's 24 national champions. Those are, a majority of those are regional and statewide leagues, which I think the more regional and statewide leagues, the better, in my opinion, because I think those regional competitions, not even in person, I think breed some better experiences for students.
There's a topic about this later.
Okay. Are we talking about the D1 thing?
Stuff? Yeah.
Oh, you want to? We can shift that.
Yeah, we can go to that. That's fine. Because we're a D2 school. And for us, it's really important when we play the MSUs that we can go and brag that to our ADs, to our administration, being like, hey, look, when we told them we were national champions for Fortnite, they're like, oh, D2 national champions. And I'm like, no, like national champions, like of the whole NACE, right? And our kids always look forward to playing MSU. They look forward to playing U of M. They look forward to playing all the big schools, and the opportunity to not do that anymore. I don't want to say devalues our experience, but is one less thing we can brag about, right? Where like we still have GLIAC where we compete against, GV and all MTU and all the GLIAC schools. And our administration cares about that, but it's also way cooler when we beat, Michigan State, or I see Palmer in chat, U of M, and everything but CS2.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of brings us to our next topic, which I think is another behemoth, depending on how deep we get into it. But there's this growing tension between the hyper elite competitive esports team programs, i.e. Maryville, St. Clair, Harrisburg, etc., and traditionally large athletic D1 institutions, i.e. Michigan, Michigan State, Ole Miss, Syracuse, etc. And that growing tension hasn't been addressed or even called out. It just is festering in the dark, and it's going to blow up eventually. And I think we're almost at that point, especially in NACE, from NACE's perspective, that I think it's going to become a very, very massive issue. let me call in. I don't even know if we have those capabilities right now, but I'll work on that.
Yeah, let's not try something brand new live.
That's fair. That's fair. I like festering. I think festering is the proper term because it is festering. And yeah, you connect, Dylan. You bring up a good point. Yes, it's within the competitive side of things. I don't think you're seeing clubs who are super competitive getting festering about D1 clubs. No, this is on the competitive side, and this is specifically has become evident to me in the last 6 months a lot more, working on the competition council and watching some of the legislation that's being written and going to be voted on. There's an issue, and it's interesting, and no one wants to call it out, but the heart of the argument is that competitive esports programs don't want to lose their relevancy. They want to be seen as the competitive behemoths they are, and D1 institutions want to, they inherently bring attention and value to anything that they get involved in, including esports. And both of them want what they want, and there is not the ability to, there's not been much compromise. And then you have D1 institutions who are actually competitive, also starting to show up, which brings a different layer of confusion to it all. But before I go, I could go further into some of this stuff and talk about details, but what did you want to talk about?
No, like I said, I already brought up the point about how like important it is for us and our kids to play against D1 like schools. Like it's a really huge moment. We're like, when our Overwatch team played U of M's Overwatch team, was like, oh boy, we're playing Michigan this week. Like that's a huge thing. And while they were competitive as far as ranks were concerned, like the mentality and mindset was completely different, right? I assume the U of M kids were like, what's a fair state?
Yeah.
Right. So Ferris isn't an actual state in this country. So what is a fair state? And while all of our players knew who they were, kind of things. I understand where the D1 schools are coming from, because again, their administration like, what's a fair state? Like we may be less than an hour away, but like, what's a fair state, right? They want to play the other. If they could play Alabama every week because that's their like college football thing, they would, right? So I understand it from both sides. Which is why I'm going to random shout out the Big Ten esports. While it's not like the Big Ten esports, the big esports conference with the Big Ten schools in it, is where I see things slowly shifting, which is what this topic's about. So I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah. It's interesting to navigate, and in a scenario like NACE, where the general membership kind of drives things, or gets to vote on things, but then also you have like these 10 individuals on the competition council who are elected to represent membership. They're actually deciding a lot more of the specifics on competition. And then you've got the board of directors. You have a pretty small number of people who are driving conversation and driving decisions. And right now it seems like there's this battle of like, it has to be one or the other. And there's not a lot. A lot of this isn't public stuff yet. So I'm not going to go super into depth on some of that stuff, but right now there is a potential piece of legislation that's being voted on this week at the NACE National Convention. Now I've heard it could potentially get pulled back, but there's a group of these hyper elite smaller schools, like hyper elite esports competitive schools, who've brought forward a piece of legislation that basically says, well, it does say, NACE will maintain a pure meritocracy as it pertains to competition, meaning that no institutions, programs, or teams will be separated based on non-competitive factors. No parts of competition will be exclusive to a subset of members unless a mechanism exists to earn access through competitive means. This piece of legislation basically takes the self-select conference that was a beta trial this year with the D1 schools in NACE and says that will no longer be a thing. And that's and it prevents any school from doing that, which is so. Can I say stupid?
Say it. Yeah, go
it's
for
so
it.
Stupid.
We're not sponsored. Get
it's
spicy.
so stupid. It's so dumb. Because, like, I mean, even I at a D2 institution when I was at Florida Southern, I would rather have NACE competition be me against other D2 schools in my conference. Because my admins even only cared if I beat and competed against my D2 schools. And this piece of legislation is like, no one will be put together into anything except how they perform competitively. That's stupid. That is short-term thinking. It's not long-term. It's not sustainable thinking. I think the people who wrote this and sponsored this are not thinking what's best for the future and sustainability of collegiate esports. They're thinking about what's best for my institution in this exact moment. And I'll call them out. And you might be in chat. Like, that's just what it is. And to be honest, like, there's a growing number of D1 schools. And I think one of the 10 sponsors is a D1 institution. But you're saying there's 57 D1 schools in the NACE room, and that number is growing. And those D1 schools want different needs they have different needs and different desires than other schools. And putting forth a piece of legislation like this cuts the desires of those schools off, and I would argue other schools off, for the betterment of your small school desires. Like that's where I'd put it at. And the discussions that have happened in response to this legislation show me that I'm exactly right, and that's the thinking that's happening. And if what is being discussed and with a group of individuals from both sides of this actually comes into play, I think everyone else will see that exact thing. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I get frustrated at that. I get passionate about this stuff because it's like, I think you have a select number of schools and individuals who are serving in leadership roles in NACE who are not looking at what is better for NACE in the long term and for the majority of NACE membership. They're only looking at what's best for them and their institutions. And that's not what you're elected to do. So, end rant.
I mean, that's fine. I still also just want to have the ability to play, D1 schools.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
So I don't disagree with you. Like, no, I think they should be able to play in their own conferences, but I also think that there should be like so like for us, like our league team would play Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays would be a general league based, and then Thursdays would be like our athletic conference, right? I understand it's implementing more games, and that's probably going to be a super negative take, but why not both? Why choose when you have to? When you don't have to.
My opinion is, if you want to be the national champion, you have to play the best schools. Period. Doesn't matter what level, D1, D3, NAI, Canadian, whatever. But if you don't want to play other schools, like if you're a D2 school and don't want to play D1s, then go play in some conference that doesn't play against D1s. You're not going to be labeled. You're not going to win a national championship. But you can play that. Like in a D1, if they don't want to play an NAI school, fine. Go play in a D1 conference, D1 competition. Maybe they should give that D1 competition, but you're not going to be able to label yourself the national championship if you don't, or the national champion if you don't go beat Maryville. Like that's what competition's about. But I also don't believe in the fact that you should force teams to play schools that they don't want to, because then they'll just leave, go to a different league. Like that's where we are with esports. Like you can just leave. And then from a NACE's perspective, they shouldn't want schools to leave. So I don't know.
No, I agree. I don't really have any more to add to that because like I said, I want to play D1 schools. D1 schools don't want to play me. So what do we do? Right? So, because like all of our teams compete against D1s regularly, right? Like we have good teams here, and it's same thing with Maryville. Like Maryville's like won national champions, but they're not D1, right? So like, You're just cutting out Maryville. Then you're cutting out St. Clair. So
I mean, if you're Michigan and you don't want to play Maryville, then don't play Maryville. I'm fine with that. You're just not going to win the national championship
until you beat Maryville.
Correct.
Or St. Clair or one of the North.
Even if they created their own D1 league, like everyone in esports is going to know, like, okay, their national champion is not the national champion because the Maryvilles or the St. Clair would stomp them. But I mean, I'm not in the boat of like you are Maryville, and in order to compete in esports, you have to play, or like you are Michigan State. In order to have an esports team, you have to play Maryville. You have to play Ferris State. That's stupid. No one can force that, except like if you join a league and that league has that stipulation. But then just make your own league. And that's what's going to happen when NACE passes this type of crap, is that the D1s are just going to leave and go start their own thing. Like that's just, and as NACE leadership, you should not want that. That's my point, is like, you should not want that. You should be working with both groups to find a solution that makes sense, more sense to everybody than the absolute extremes one way or another. And this piece of legislation is the extreme on one end. And especially when, and considering the Competition Council has been working on the idea of self-select conferences for hopefully all schools, or every school would have the opportunity to make their own self-selection conference for over a year and a half. It's pretty tone deaf for multiple members of the board of directors to come up with this piece of legislation that throws all of that work out without any, and here's the other thing, without any discussion with other members of the CC. So that's part of it too.
Did you want to keep ranting on this? Because you just read what Palmer said.
I haven't read it. BEC is focused on sustainability. In order to build both, we have to have model where is relevant. Yeah. That's from to those who make, right?
So would that include not playing, Peak Northwood, Peak Maryville in competitions?
What?
Let me just read this again. Don't read on stream is one of the things that I've learned in my years. So like, don't have incentive to play in leagues with teams that don't have schools in competition that's relevant to those who make decisions. This isn't accusatory. This isn't mean. This is just me. Like, isn't that the role to describe why these teams are relevant? Like, if I go to my administration and be like, hey, Northwood, that small private business school, is like 11-time national champions and we beat them, like, my administration would be like, cool, awesome, we love that. Like, they don't care that it's a small private business school, right? So like, it's different because I'm not in a D1, obviously. But
yeah,
like,
I would say that they don't care. But I think for the betterment of the future, like of collegiate esports building, I think there's somewhat of a responsibility to engage in competition outside of your small group as well. Like, so if I was NACE and I was looking at what BEC is, the Big Esports Conference, it's the Big Ten schools. They've created their own esports conference. It's really awesome. What I would be looking at is, how do we as NACE bring in BEC competition to be a part of our ecosystem?
Sure.
Similar to like how they did with the Big East. The Big East is a partner conference with NACE, and it feeds into your national championship. I don't know if it actually did or not. I don't know where it landed.
You also still have out of conference play for like football and stuff,
right?
So like, you could still play those schools. Like, I agree, but what we're arguing is that you can't play just Big Ten schools, right? Like, your tournament can't be just Big Ten schools, is how I understood it. You can't, like, am I making sense?
No.
Because they don't want to play the smaller schools, because who is a Northwood, right?
Right.
But who is Appalachian State? Palmer, that was a shot. You're welcome.
Wow.
Right? So
that
like,
hurt me.
But like, you still have to play those teams.
Yeah. Yes, but that gets more into like monetary value of football and like paying Appalachian State to be like the free win.
Sure, like, your administration doesn't have to care about every game you play. Like, I understand you want to play other D1 schools. That's cool. That's great. Like, we would love to play other GLIAC schools in our regular season, but we also want to play the D1s, the D3s, the private institutions that are, Cleary, stuff like that.
Yeah. Commissioner Brain, what's the incentive for us to be under NACE, though? We are boosting NACE, but how are they boosting us? I would argue that there's value to be brought from both sides. Whether that's giving, I think it also, from collegiate esports, the collegiate esports side, I think it also adds some legitimacy to the BEC when we look at I guess, the respect of your colleagues. And I think what that ultimately also adds to is the ability to win awards and be recognized in other ways. And I think that some of the value that NACE could provide is like a seed to the national playoffs, maybe 2 seeds, although I know most coaches would be like, oh, that's stupid. I'm like, there's value there. I think there's value both directions. And I think also NACE could provide things like league operations or like even producing a weekly spotlight match of a BEC school. I think there are opportunities that NACE could provide value, or the NECC could provide value to the BEC that maybe hasn't been explored or discussed yet. But I think there's options there. But I also do believe that the BEC right now, as it is, from my understanding, doesn't really feed into national championship competition. I think it feeds into CECC along with every other conference. But beyond that, like what happens when Michigan wins Overwatch in the BEC? That's kind of the end, and that might be fine for most people. We partnered with NECC for Weird One, yeah, and that was part of the discussion on when I had you and Jacob on. We have no desire to feed into national. I mean, that would. So here's my question there back at the commissioner: is that you don't have that desire, or does no school in your BEC have that desire at all? Because if that, I mean, that just it's weird to me. Because Big Ten basketball, every Big Ten competition feeds into national competition, and I would argue that those teams and your athletic department find value in that. So, yeah.
I highlighted this comment because I really like it because from a small school, I think there's some education to be had there with your admins to understand that beating someone like North Dakota in hockey is a big deal. They don't understand the same way the esports, even though they should, and I highly agree.
That's fair.
So sorry, that was just a random thing that I wanted to point out. That yes, that is also.
There's also an argument to be made that like it's not just admins who need that information. Like your alumni who maybe played on your league team 5 years ago know that Maryville's the best.
Yeah, very much so.
So.
So like we'll put it this way.
But hockey's a good example.
Like I had a kid that graduated 2 years ago. That we played Maryville in Sealowell, and he had been killed 4 times. I'm forgetting the midlaner's name. This is the one that plays in LEC now, or LCS.
Who?
The midlaner for TL. APA.
So
APA used to play on Maryville, and my midlaner, after dying 4 times solo to him, APA dove him under tower and he killed him. He's like, I killed a pro player, right? Yeah. And that's something that he will remember literally for the rest of his life, and will continue to support our program because of that. Like that was one of a core memory from his university experience, right? Which is why like us playing Maryville, and they like would then the next year have like 2 pros on their team. Mm-hmm. It's like that's a really awesome experience for us. Like sure, we lost in 15 minutes. Like we couldn't even FF we lost that fast, but it was still a good experience to be like, hey, look, I played someone who just killed Faker. Yeah. Right? So APA, thank you. I wasn't looking at chat. I was looking at Antor hoping he would help me, but I should have been looking at the other Antor.
Yeah, so all that to say is that there's this tension between those 2 groups of programs, in my opinion, and I think this NACE convention
is going to be fire.
It's going to be fire. And what's interesting from what I hear is that there are certain institutions in the D1 perspective that have not renewed their membership for next year because they don't like the direction of NACE. And what that does is, first of all, that like says, hey, this is a big deal. But second of all, we don't get to vote. So the D1s who are not renewing their thing don't get to vote. So you're already losing votes in that field. And that's going to be more difficult to navigate if you're someone who wants to find the middle of the road option. So, good luck. And I'm kind of jealous that I get to miss the spiciness. But I mean, what always kind of happens is that everyone's spicy in their head and doesn't bring it out. So
except
it'll
for you,
probably be fine.
Adam
Except
Antor.
me. So it probably won't like boil over, but there might be instances of like people sharing some thoughts. But yeah, it's really interesting. Book the flight. I can't afford that. Actually, I don't even know what day NACE convention starts. I know I'm flying to Vegas on Thursday. So
Yeah, I know, because I was supposed to be allowed to go to that as part of our new budget, and then you're not going, so I can't go now, which is really disappointing.
Okay, you all told me that we didn't have a budget for me to fly there, so I can't afford it.
Yeah, but apparently they had a budget for me to fly there.
That's weird. Then where's the budget? Show me the numbers.
Talk to Andrew.
The only two reasons D1 schools invest in esports is enough. D1, blah, blah, blah.
I would disagree, but... Did you want to talk about that point or no?
No.
Okay.
It's good. It's fine. Starts Wednesday. Wait, you're going to Evo. I am going to Evo. I'll be working with a publisher as a photographer. I'm really excited. Yeah, Chris, I think that's part of your point. And I think there are certain D1 institutions that like I'll call out and say like they're overvaluing what they bring to the table to certain esports organizations as well. So there's a little bit of both where it's like some D1s are like, hey, give me everything because we're X D1. And my response is like, okay, like worst case scenario, in my opinion, you don't join. Like our league's still going to be around. At least if just you leave. And I think NACE would still be around if every D1 left. It just would be different. It would be smaller. And I think long-term, it's not what NACE should want. But you also like you aren't owed the world because you got hired at X institution and your institution happens to like minorly support esports. So that's my hot take without saying names on some of that.
We should separate D1 from Power 5.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, yeah. Change all my D1s to Power 5 because the smaller D1s are not bringing that vibe.
I just hate all D1s. What can I say? You know,
there are some small D1s that you've never even heard of.
No, yeah, I agree, and it's probably fair. Power 5 schools, would they all belong to the same athletic conference?
Where's this?
No. That's just me saying something.
Oh.
So, like, Power 5, are we talking about Big Ten? Is that what
there are 5 power conferences. Big Ten is one.
Okay, yeah, okay.
SEC is another.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
So
traditional sports guys, come on.
It's the biggest traditional sports conference.
Yeah, I spent my 20s in Europe, so I'm not super familiar with this. So.
Yeah, Pac-12, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the Power 5. There are 4 power conferences. P4. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot up in the air right now with collegiate athletics. Chris's point, I feel like if you replace P5 with Maryville, the question becomes a bit different. I think that's an interesting question. I think at some point a few years ago, you could replace that with Maryville and with some other institutions. And basically like I think most collegiate was okay with them just not being in your competition. And I think those schools have kind of come around and you've seen those schools join in on national competition much more than they did previously. And maybe that's going to be the same case if the P5 schools walk away or are kind of left hanging. I don't know if that's actually the case though. The landscape of collegiate esports is vastly different than it was 3-5 years ago. Maryville leverages its name in other avenues, such as with an ACL, but does not do so in its native ecosystem. That's a good point.
I mean that. So like the tier 2 orgs don't mean anything to anybody. But like, okay, I'm saying that as someone who worked for a T2 org before. Okay,
yeah.
So I could. That's like I could tell you the team I worked for, and you'd go, what, who, right? But Maryville is like that name that they bring to that. So I understand where that point. Thoughts on D1 schools building teams to compete in pro esports, like Blinn, Winthrop, in Valorant and VCTs. Obviously, you can go Maryville in League too, considering they've been beating.
I think it's sick.
Absolutely. So I love that. When I first came here, like I was coaching in Europe, my pitch to Jana when I first got here is like, how do we win the national championship in League? And he goes, that's sick. We have no money. And I'm like,
dang.
But you have me. He's like, have fun coaching goal players. So obviously that was paraphrased, and Jana wasn't even here. I'm upset that my old boss didn't show up to this. But yeah, no, it's about school investment too. So school wasn't ready to invest in me to win CELO. So
yeah. We want to maximize our growth and don't believe others can do it for us, which is valid and an objective. Palmer, what if I told you that the BEC is close to a point where schools will get a check to their gift account at the end of each year? Does that make our need to separate any different? No. I mean, how I view collegiate esports competition going in the future is it's going to structure-wise align closer to what the NAC or what the NCAA and NAIA do. It's conferences that feed into national competition. I don't see a future where it's always national competition with random conferences every semester. Like it's overwhelming for everybody, players, fans, admins, etc. I see the need to feed into national competition from a conference level. How that's determined, if it goes to like traditional athletic conferences, D3, D2, and then there's different national champions that way, I don't know. But I do see this, the next couple years is going to be much more solidifying of regional and conference competition that feeds into national competition. And I don't think it changes the needs. Like, you can have your BEC, but like at the end of the day, like from a collegiate esports perspective, if you just have a conference champion, like you're creating a barrier between you and the rest of collegiate esports. And I think that's missing out on opportunities for not only your school and your institution, but also from your student or for your students. And I've always been someone who values like recognition, and I've had admins who really value recognition. And I think national competition is one of those vehicles that really helps with that. I mean, if you're not in NACE, you don't get a NACE award. So that's like, I don't know. And if you're not in CECC, there's CECC awards. Like, if you're only doing BEC competition, you're missing out on a lot of opportunities from that perspective. Now, that might not be valuable to you. But yeah, I don't know. I from my perspective, I think you're losing out on a lot of value. And I think legitimacy too. I mean, right now, like half your schools are clubs too. So like, sure, you have a BEC championship, but like from the rest of the landscape, it's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. Like, but for you guys, I mean, it's good. It's good for your school.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll add to that. I care more about who's the NACE National Championship than the Big Ten Esports Conference champion.
True. I don't think I watched any BEC competition. I follow their Twitter. I think it's dope. I'm a Michigan fan. I love when Michigan wins, but I mean, I don't watch.
We're a different demographic though too.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wanted to talk about. There you go. Until esports proves to be sustainable and not an expense, it'll be hard to prove that it's worth it. I mean, I guess it kind of just depends on where. I think Palmer said something. There you go. Because it needs to see esports as sustainable ever and not just an expense item every year.
Yeah. And if you're looking at checks coming in, like, that's huge positive. Like, I'm not downgrading anything that BEC's done. It's huge. And leveraging your school brands is what you guys should be doing. And you're doing a great job at it. And that needs to continue to happen. I'm looking at it from more of a landscape level perspective and future perspective too. I think, yeah, there's a sustainability question there, but like also if all of the rest of collegiate esports is in shambles while the BEC is still doing what they're doing right now, like, is that a positive for us 5-10 years from now? I don't know.
Legitimacy in the esports world isn't what's important. Legitimacy is to our alumni and fans and the brands of the school. I mean, so obviously esports programs have different demographics as far as students as well as advertisers. So I mean, it'd be reaching out to different advertisers for money. Obviously, I'm not gonna say what I know everyone kind of already knows, but the alumni will change over time, right? Like, we have alumni that donate to the program that graduated 2 years ago, right? So it's one of those things. Like, it's just gonna take time because the kids right now, they care more about esports than they do traditional sports. We go to high school, be like, what would you rather watch, Fortnite or football? And a lot of kids will say Fortnite, right? So it's gonna take a little bit of time for the alumni to catch up, obviously, because the average esports gamer is just slightly over 21. So
true. I just looked at the clock. We're way past. So
none of the clocks in here actually work. And
good.
That's more of a benefit for me, so I don't know what time it
nice.
actually is.
Nice. Let me hop through a couple things. The other thing that happened on the timeline was Slew Pogchew is in chat right now. Found out that if they want a CeeLo trophy, they have to pay $6,000 for it. But in 2023, Riot agreed to create replicas for all past champions, and they footed the bill. But this year, GG Tech, it is what it is. Good luck with that. And then, no, oh my gosh, Dylan. And then the other, no,
we're not talking about it.
Even talking about it. And then the other thing I want to shout out right now is Esports and Coffee. I'm a huge fan of their talk show. They just announced they're taking a break until September. Obviously, Sari still in chat, probably, or she was. They have a lot going on right now. They're about to host the NACE convention. They're always doing events. And as someone with experience with doing weekly shows, like, it becomes a grind. Like, once it becomes like week 35, 40, and you're like, what am I talking about this week? It becomes more of a job than this sounds fun. Yeah. So I totally respect it. And we'll be looking out for their return in September. But they're awesome. Hey, Mrs. Lucifer in chat. Long time listener, first time caller. Oh, yeah.
That's going to be the ad for next stream, by the way, is going to be having live callers.
We should have live callers.
All right,
let's get it done. We'll have live callers next time. We're making it happen. I don't know when the next show will be because I'll be flying Monday, but our hope is probably next week or the week after. And then once the school year starts, we'll have a solid time to do this. But yeah.
As someone helping run the program on top of being a grad student, please get a solid time put in place because I need to schedule my life as much as possible.
I mean, your life is much more busy than mine.
Yeah, I've got 16-hour work days. You just got to figure it out. That 16-hour work day.
3-hour podcast for me to listen to on my walks with the dog. Holy cow. Adam needs to be the Joe Rogan. I could be. But what about the sports guy? What's that other show? The Pat McAfee show. Could be more of that.
That was literally what he told me that he wanted was the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah, because that's super chill. The dude comes in, he's just chatting. It's like, hey, what's up? And then he has like a guy call in. Sometimes he's like standing. He's like, all right, yeah, let's go.
Move the camera.
Yeah, move the camera. Yeah. All right, who's calling in? Who's calling in? Oh, yeah, cool. And then he's got all these figurines on his desk. Like, that could be me. Pat is a WVU fan. We could tweet at him and be like, hey, this is the Pat McAfee of collegiate esports. That'd be dope.
Please do. I want to be famous. Thank you. I was in the league client like 8 years ago. I need more fame. Thank you.
We need soundboards. Oh, we could do soundboards too. That'd be kind of fun.
You're asking a whole lot
Give
right
me
now.
A soundboard, right? Stream Deck. We'll get another Stream Deck. I'll have a soundboard.
Flash, our production guy, just turned around and looked and was like, oh, boy.
That wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, what do we think about the first show, Vance? How you feeling?
I mean,
you made it through.
We made it through. It was tough. Nothing broke, so we're chilling.
Not yet.
Quick, end stream.
Yeah. Well, for me, like, thank you everybody who tuned in. Thanks, Mans, for joining me this season, if you will, as my co-host. FlashRewinds, aka Jacob, is our producer. He's the one doing all the technical stuff on the side and also a lot of the graphics. Got to shout him out. He's an awesome, one of our professional esports production students. Big fan. He also worked DreamHack, this past DreamHack. So really cool opportunities he's getting, and he's killing it. And everybody who's going to NACE, have a fantastic time. Enjoy, safe travels. I'll be thinking about you. I'll be in blistering hot Vegas while you're in blistering hot Orlando. So who wins? I don't know. Mine's more of a dry heat. Yours is muggy, so I don't know. Maybe I win that one. But that's all I got. You got anything?
No.
Cool. You know where to find us, and we'll be back next week sometime.
Oh, it's gonna be next week?
Oh, I don't know. Well, maybe the next week.
Because you
said... Well, let's see what happens at NACE.
Okay.
If it's spicy, we got to do it next week.
Okay.
All right.
If you say so.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
I'll see you.